It had snowed for the first time that winter. Not just a light dusting, but one of those thick, fluffy blankets that turned every roof into a postcard and muffled the world just enough to make it feel magical. Elena Price stood at the kitchen window, sipping coffee and watching her daughter, Maya, twirl in a pair of oversized snow boots. The girl had barely waited for daylight. She'd rushed out as soon as the first sunbeam hit the yard. At just 7 years old, Maya had the kind of spirit that made strangers smile. Her laugh was big. Her curiosity was bigger. And right now, she was making her first ever snow angel. She flopped down in the front yard, arms and legs moving back and forth in sweeping motions, like she was painting the sky into the ground. It wasn't a perfect shape. The wings leaned left, the head was a little lopsided, but to Elena, it was beautiful. It was joy. Pressed into powder. Elena grabbed her phone and took a picture from the doorway. It wasn't just a moment. It was memory, frozen in time. Later that night, they made cocoa. Maya wanted to sleep in her snow boots. She told her mom the angel would protect their house now. Like in the bedtime stories, the next morning, everything changed. Elena opened the front door to grab the newspaper and immediately noticed something was off. The snow angel was gone. Not melted, not trampled. Gone. The rest of the yard was untouched, except for that single, perfect rectangle where someone had carefully, almost surgically, shoveled the snow away. She stepped forward. The rest of the front lawns on the street remained pristine, untouched by plow or shovel. Only her yard had been disturbed. More specifically, only the section where the angel had been. At first, she thought maybe a neighbor had done it by mistake. Some kid. Maybe a prank. Then she saw the note taped to her front door. It was inside a plastic sheet protector, the kind people use to keep documents dry. Neatly taped, eye level, directly in the center. As if whoever placed it there wanted to make sure it would be seen before the door was even opened. She peeled it off and read the letter. Yard displays must be pre-approved by the homeowners association and should remain in keeping with the visual standards of the neighborhood. This includes decorative displays made in the natural environment. Please be reminded that non-compliance may result in a warning or fine. K. Halbrook. HOA President Elena blinked. A snow angel. That's what this was about. Not a fence. Not a shed. Not even a poorly painted mailbox. A snow angel. She looked up and down the street, scanning the other houses. There were no signs of life yet. Curtains drawn. Cars still frosted. It was early, quiet. Her eyes drifted toward the house across the street. The one with the red shutters and the enormous head shaped like a swan. The house that belonged to Karen Halbrook, the self-declared queen of the HOA. Karen had been president of the Woodpine HOA for over a decade. Rumor was she hadn't been re-elected so much as tolerated. No one else wanted the headache. No one else could stand the meetings. Elena had met her once, briefly. At the Halloween compliance check, Karen had told Maya her witch costume was a little aggressive for a family street. Maya had been dressed as Hermione Granger. That memory hit differently now. Elena crumpled the note slowly, staring out at the blank patch of snow where her daughter's angel had been. She didn't get angry. Not right away. That would come later. Right now. She just felt a coldness that had nothing to do with the weather later that morning. Maya came downstairs in her pajamas, hair messy, holding her snow boots. Can I go? See my angel again? Elena paused. She crouched down, brushed hair from Maya's forehead, and gently said, "She's not there anymore, sweetie." Maya's face fell. Did she fly away? Elena hesitated, then nodded. Double quotes. Yeah, she said softly. She flew away for now, Maya didn't ask any more questions. She just stared out the window, quiet, as if waiting to see wings in the snow. Elena turned back to the note. There were moments in life that spoke louder than others, not with volume, but with clarity. This was one of them. She wasn't going to shout. She wasn't going to argue. But she wasn't going to forget. And neither, soon enough, would Karen Halbrook. 3 days after the snow angel vanished, Elena sat in the back row of the community clubhouse, staring at the overhead fluorescent lights and wondering how something so bright could still feel so cold. The monthly HOA meeting had started late, as usual. Karen Halbrook was never on time, but she always made an entrance. She swept into the room wearing a beige wool coat that looked more expensive than necessary, with a clipboard clutched in one hand and a metal water bottle in the other. Her walk was sharp and deliberate, the kind of stride that came with decades of self-appointed authority. The heels of her boots clicked like punctuation. Behind her, a man trailed quietly. Todd Halbrook, her husband. He always came along, though. He never spoke. He usually just sat in the corner, flipping through a hunting magazine or pretending to check sports scores. No one ever acknowledged him, including Karen. There were about 15 chairs set up, most filled with neighbors who looked half awake, half annoyed, and fully uncomfortable. HOA meetings had become a chore, something you attended not because you cared, but because you didn't want to be targeted next. Elena had skipped most of them since she moved in 2 years ago, but this time, she came with a purpose. Karen adjusted the mic stand even though it was already at her height. She tapped it twice, not because it wasn't working, but because she liked the sound of it. Then she began, her voice calm but clipped, like a principal announcing detention. Good evening. Let's keep this short. As you all know, we've had several weather-related incidents this week. Please remember that all decorations, displays, and property alterations, seasonal or otherwise, must comply with HOA codes. Yes, this includes snow. A few eyebrows lifted. A couple neighbors glanced around. Elena didn't speak. Not yet. She kept her eyes on Karen, who flipped to the second page of her clipboard with the flair of someone reviewing evidence. Item 1. Lot 14 unauthorized. Decorative snow design. This was addressed via formal notice. Consider this a reminder that the HOA has the authority to enforce visual standards in accordance with the 2011 charter. That was Elena's house. Lot 14. No names. Just a number. A reference point in a list of violations. Karen glanced up and let her eyes land briefly, deliberately on Elena. No one else said anything. Not Devin, the HOA vice president, who sat near the front with a stack of notes he never looked at. Not the Thompsons, who'd been fined last spring for having a grill visible from the street. Not even Mrs. Green, who once argued over the height of her sunflowers. They all looked down, or away, or at their phones. Karen moved on to item 2. Something about unapproved solar lights, and the moment passed, like nothing had happened. Elena didn't interrupt. She didn't raise her hand. She just listened, studied, took it all in. The way Karen talked like she was reading law. The way she used the word authority instead of community. The way she had weaponized silence, and everyone in that room had surrendered to it. After the meeting, as people filtered out and tried to avoid eye contact, Elena approached Devin. He flinched slightly when she said his name. I was just wondering, she said, keeping her voice light. Does the HOA have a definition for unauthorized decorative snow design? Or is that something Karen made up last week? Devin looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. I just help with paperwork. I don't really handle enforcement. Elena nodded, like that was perfectly reasonable. She didn't push. That wasn't the moment for it. As she walked back to her car, she noticed something odd. The sidewalk in front of Karen's house had been salted, swept, and cleaned more aggressively than anywhere else on the block. The walkway gleamed like polished stone. Even the hedges seemed stiffer, like they'd been pruned out of spite. But what really caught her eye was what wasn't there. No children's toys. No snowmen. No sign that joy had ever touched the lawn. Elena opened the car door and sat for a moment before starting the engine. This wasn't about snow. Not really. It was about control. About someone who got a taste of power and never let go. Someone who made the rules up as she went and counted on everyone else to stay quiet. But Elena wasn't going to stay quiet. Not anymore. She didn't know exactly what she'd do next, but she knew this. If Karen wanted to play by the book, Elena would find the book, and she'd read it carefully. And then she'd find the parts Karen hoped no one ever noticed. It started with the mailman. Not a dramatic reveal or a hidden file, just a passing comment from Carl, who delivered the neighborhood's mail with the same energy. As someone waiting to retire 5 years ago, Elena had stepped outside to grab her mail. Carl was there, walking his usual route, whizzing off-key and bundled in a USPS jacket that looked older than her house. He gave her a nod and handed over a small stack of envelopes. "Quiet week?" he asked casually, like he already knew the answer. Elena shrugged. "You could say that." Then Carl tilted his head toward the Halbrook's house across the street. "She got you, didn't she?" Elena froze. "Excuse me?" He jerked his chin toward Karen's perfectly manicured hedge. "The Angel Patrol, or whatever she calls it. Something about snow. I've seen her out there at night with a flashlight and a clipboard. She's been doing this stuff for years." That stuck with Elena more than it should have. Not the flashlight. Not the clipboard. The word he used. Years. That night, after Maya went to bed and the house was quiet, Elena opened her laptop. Not for work. Not for emails. She went looking for stories. The Woodpine Homeowners Facebook group was private, but Elena had been a member since she moved in. Most posts were boring: dog photos, garage sales, someone asking about lost recycling bins, but she used the search bar, typed in hoakaren. What she found made her sit up straight. There were posts going back years. A Halloween chalk design someone said was vandalized overnight. A flag taken down due to improper mounting. A letter sent to a new family after they put up a birthday banner that could be seen from the street. All written off as misunderstandings or exaggerated neighbor drama. But there was one thing in common. Every complaint ended the same way. With a copy of a letter. The exact phrasing. The same tone. The same signature. K. Halbrook, HOA President. And not a single one of them had gone anywhere. The families either stopped posting or moved. Elena pulled up county records. It took a while, but it was all there. 5 homes on her street had changed owners in the last 2 years. 2 of them had left after just 6 months. She didn't know them well, but she remembered one. Family 3 kids, always riding scooters up and down the sidewalk. They had chalk drawings on their driveway every weekend. Then one day, they were just gone. She kept scrolling, opening archived neighborhood newsletters. Most were filled with fluff tips for lawn care, reminders about trash pickup. But scattered among them were names, rule violations, passive-aggressive articles titled things like "Keeping Woodpine Beautiful," "Our Shared Responsibility," and "The Importance of Visual Uniformity." Every single article written by Karen. Every single rule applied to things that made people human. Elena paused when she found a scanned PDF of the HOA Charter, dated 12 years ago. It was long, formal, and painfully dull. But as she skimmed, Something clicked. The rules hadn't changed in a decade. But the way they were enforced, that had changed entirely. This wasn't about policy. It was about preference. And the woman behind those preferences didn't just dislike snow angels. She disliked anything she didn't control. The next morning, Elena did something she hadn't done since college. She printed the HOA charter. Every page. She sat at the kitchen table with a highlighter, a pen, and a notebook. Maya worked beside her with a box of crayons, drawing a new snow angel on paper since she couldn't make one outside anymore. Is this one okay? Maya asked, holding up the picture. Elena smiled. That one's perfect. But behind that smile, something had shifted. This wasn't just about Maya anymore. It was about every kid who wanted to play, every neighbor who wanted to decorate, every family who'd been pushed out without ever being told why. Karen hadn't just erased a snow angel. She'd erased a pattern of life that made a neighborhood feel like home. And Elena, she was done watching. She didn't have a flashlight or a clipboard, but she had something far more dangerous. Time, patience, and curiosity. All she needed now was someone who knew the rules even better than Karen did. And as it turns out, that person lived 3 doors down. Elena had always noticed Mr. Chang, but like most neighbors, she didn't really know him. He lived in the modest brick house near the cul-de-sac with green shutters and a wind chime shaped like a crescent moon. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, he sat on his front porch with a thermos of black coffee, wearing pressed slacks and a cardigan. Even in July, he didn't talk much, but he watched everything. It was Carl, the mailman, who mentioned something offhand that sent Elena walking toward that porch one cold afternoon. Old man Chang used to be a lawyer, the kind who scared other lawyers, Carl had said, stuffing letters into a box. Wrote his own prenup in Latin just for fun. So Elena bundled up, tucked a manila folder under her arm, and walked the short distance to his front steps. He saw her coming, didn't move, just raised his eyebrows slightly and poured another cup from his thermos. You're Elena, he said. Not asked. She nodded. That obvious, newer face, eyes that read the rules. You're not like the others. I guess I'm not, she climbed the steps and took a seat in the empty chair beside him. It was plastic and faded from the sun, but clean. He didn't offer coffee, but he didn't tell her to leave either. After a long pause, Elena spoke. I think Karen's been abusing her position as HOA President. Mr. Chang looked over the rim of his cup. You think that, he said, because she erased your daughter's snow angel. I think that, Elena replied, because she's been doing this for years. Targeting families, bending the rules, making people feel like they don't belong. And no one stops her. He didn't answer. Not yet. So she continued. She cites bylaws like they're scripture, but no one ever questions her. And when they do, they get fined or ignored until they leave. The worst part is most of the neighborhood just accepts it. That seemed to get his attention. He leaned forward, setting his cup down on the table between them. Elena, do you know when the HOA Charter was last amended? 12 years ago, she said. I've read the document. Twice. He cracked a smile. It was small, but it was there. And do you know when Karen was last officially elected? She says it was 4 years ago, but I checked. The records were never filed. There's no formal renewal. Nothing legal. His smile widened just a little. I knew you were different. He reached into the pocket of his cardigan and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Yellowed at the edges. Unfolded it with care, like it was something sacred. This, he said, laying it between them, is the forgotten clause, buried in Appendix D subsection 19. Elena leaned in and read it aloud. If no formal election is held within a 4-year period, any member of the HOA may initiate a recall and re-election process, provided they submit a petition with signatures from at least 30% of active residents. He nodded. Karen's term expired 18 months ago. She never held a new vote. Technically, she has no legal authority right now. Everything she's doing is informal, implied. She's a ghost president, Elena said. A ghost with a megaphone. Mr. Chang replied. It hit her all at once. Karen had wrapped herself in the idea of power, a title, a clipboard, a reputation. But legally, it was all an illusion, and no one had ever bothered to check until now. I'll need signatures, Elena said quietly. 30%, Mr. Chang reminded her. That's 26 homes. Correct. And you'll need to do it quietly, if she catches wind. Before the petition's ready, she'll go to war. Elena looked out across the street, where Karen's immaculate lawn sat like a museum exhibit. She imagined the clipboard, the plastic notices, the snow angel erased like it never existed. I'm not afraid of her, she said. You should be, Mr. Chang replied, but not so afraid that you stop. He folded the paper again and handed it to her. Make copies, he said. Burn mine when you're done. She took the paper and stood. Thank you. He nodded once. Bring her down gently, he said. Or hard. I don't care. Just make sure she doesn't get back up. As she walked home, Elena felt the weight of something heavy and quiet. Not fear. Not yet. But resolve. This wasn't about breaking rules. It was about enforcing the right ones. And it started with a petition. One house at a time. It started with banana bread. Elena didn't show up at people's doors waving papers. That would have set off alarms. Karen's alarms. Instead, she baked banana bread, pumpkin muffins, chocolate chip cookies, little offerings wrapped in wax, paper tucked neatly into paper bags, and delivered one house at a time. Just being neighborly. She'd say with a smile. It wasn't a bribe. Not really. It was a warm-up. A reminder that not everyone in Woodpine walked around with clipboards and fines in hand. Then came the real question, the one she saved until the second visit. Or after a warm hello at the mailbox. Have you ever gotten one of those notices? From Karen, most people laughed awkwardly. Some nodded. One or two immediately grew quiet. Oh, yeah, the sidewalk light thing, said Mr. Kellerman, to doors down. Too bright, apparently. The flag, whispered Mrs. Moreno, clutching her rosary. She said it was too political. It had sunflowers on it. I had to take down my daughter's art from our window, said a woman Elena had only seen walking her dachshund. She drew a rainbow. That was the whole drawing. A rainbow. Everyone had a story, and none of them had ever connected the dots until now. Each conversation ended the same way. Elena would pull a folded petition out of her coat pocket, not flashy, not dramatic, and hand it over with quiet confidence. We're not trying to cause chaos, she'd say. We're just asking for a proper vote. That's what the rules say. That's what Karen ignored. Some neighbors hesitated. Others signed without blinking. By the end of week 1, Elena had 18 signatures. She needed to 6. She was careful, very careful, about who she approached. No one who had a visible relationship with Karen. No one who still displayed one of the little blue HOA-approved compliant home window decals. Karen's version of a gold star. And definitely not anyone with security cameras pointed at the street. Then, on a Thursday morning, the unexpected happened. Devin called her. She almost didn't answer. His name blinking on her screen made her stomach churn. The HOA's second in command. Quiet. Apologetic. Spineless. But curiosity one. Elena, he said, his voice low, you need to be careful. Karen's suspicious. She knows something's going on. Elena didn't flinch. I'm not doing anything illegal. That doesn't matter, he said quickly. She doesn't play by legal. She plays by fear. She told me if I ever voted against her, I'd be removed from the board. She said she has ways. She doesn't even hold office legally. Elena said. Devin went quiet. Then he said, I never signed that renewal form. None of us did. She just kept showing up, saying it was still her term. Elena let that sink in. I can't support you openly, he said, but I'm not stopping you. That was enough. By week 2, Elena had 25 signatures, only one short. The final name came from an unexpected place, the Grays. A quiet couple with 3 boys and a lawn so well-trimmed it looked painted on. They'd never caused trouble. They never spoke at meetings. Elena assumed they'd be loyal to the regime. But when she knocked, Mrs. Gray opened the door and stared at Elena like she'd been waiting for this moment for years. Did she get your kid too? She asked. Elena nodded. Double quotes. She made our youngest take down his Christmas lights. Said they were distracting drivers. He was 7. He cried for 2 days. She signed. Elena now had 32 names. More than enough. She made copies. Burned the original, like Mr. Chang told her to. She even mailed one to herself, postmarked and sealed, for proof. Then she waited. Not long. Karen must have sensed the wind shift, because the next evening, as Elena watered her porch plants, a voice called out from across the lawn. Lovely weather, Karen said, stepping into the street like a monarch. Inspecting her land. Elena looked up. Almost like snow's coming, Karen added, her tone saccharine. Let's hope it doesn't bring any creative expressions this year. Elena smiled. Not a forced smile. A calm one. We'll see, she said, and she meant it, because this time, the snow wouldn't just fall quietly. It would land on a neighborhood ready to rise. It was a Wednesday when the letter went out, every signature neatly listed. Every clause, quoted exactly from the HOA's own charter. Every detail, airtight. Elena hand-delivered a copy to Devin, who looked like he might faint. Another went to the HOA general inbox, and a third folded carefully, without a single crease out of place, slid into Karen Halbrook's mailbox, with the calm finality of a sealed verdict. Legally, Karen had 72 hours to respond. She waited until the 71st. Then she called an emergency meeting. The notice was taped to every community board and emailed to every resident. Mandatory attendance requested. Special HOA business. 6 p.m. Community Hall. The wording was dramatic, even for Karen. All caps, no explanation. No agenda. She wanted control. A performance. A moment to stop the bleeding. She had no idea the floor beneath her was already gone. Elena arrived early, not to set up, not to grandstand, just to sit. Second row, center seat, not the back anymore. The room filled quickly, more people than usual. Not just the usual HOA loyalists and passive onlookers. Families Elena had spoken to. Faces she'd knocked doors to reach. Mr. Chang sat near the front, sipping coffee from a steel thermos, watching quietly. Then Karen walked in. Pearls again. A cream blazer, clipboard in one hand, a legal pad in the other. Todd followed her as always, carrying nothing, saying less. She didn't smile. Not tonight. Karen took her place at the podium and adjusted the mic even though it didn't need adjusting. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice firm but low. It's come to my attention that a small group of residents led by misinformation, and I'll say it plainly. Disrespect has attempted to undermine the HOA's stability with an invalid petition. Murmurs rose in the room. Elena didn't move. I am still the acting president of this association. I have served this community faithfully for over 12 years. And while it's easy to criticize leadership, I remind you that rules and order are what protect the value of our homes and the safety of our streets. She tapped her clipboard once, deliberately. However, to ease tensions and avoid further confusion. I'm prepared to Elena Price, someone said suddenly. It was Devin. He stood from the back, voice shaky but audible. That petition is not invalid. I reviewed it myself. The signatures are legitimate, and the clause it cites is directly from the charter, which you failed to renew. Karen blinked. Once, twice. You weren't authorized to review that document, she said quickly. Devin held up a binder. I was elected as vice president, which means I had every right. Karen's face tightened. The room had gone completely still. Someone coughed. Another shifted in their chair. Let me be clear, Elena said finally, standing. Her voice was calm, direct. This isn't a mutiny. It's not an attack. It's a recall, legally filed, properly delivered. 32 households signed it. She pulled a folder from her bag and placed it on the front table, neatly. And since you did not call for an election within the mandatory time frame, per Appendix D, subsection 19 of the Charter, your role is expired. Karen's mouth opened but no sound came out. She looked to Todd, who gave a shrug so slight it was barely a breath. You all think you're clever, she said finally. But you don't understand what happens when there's no structure, no control. You'll beg for order again once things start falling apart. Now, Mr. Chang said from the front, voice clear. We'll build something better. Together, Devin stepped forward again. Per the rules, the board will now vote to initiate an emergency re-election and transition of leadership. Karen turned red. She looked around the room, searching for a friendly face. No one met her eyes. The vote was called. Devin. Yes. Mrs. Green. Yes. Mr. Patel. Yes. One by one, the hands went up. 7 board members. 7 yeses. Karen stared at them like strangers. Her mouth trembled, but she didn't speak. Not this time. She picked up her clipboard slowly, smoothed the paper beneath her fingers. Then she walked out. Not a word. Not a glance back. Todd followed, silent as ever. The room sat in stunned silence. For a moment, until someone clapped. Then another. Then the room erupted. Not into cheers, but into something better. Relief. Elena sat down. Not triumphant. Just free. For the first time since the snow fell, there was air in the room. Real air. Clean. Honest. And outside, the clouds were gathering again. Snow was coming. And this time, no one would dare erase it. The snow returned that Friday. Soft at first. Just a whisper in the wind. Then heavier, thicker, falling like it had been holding its breath all month. By morning, Woodpine was blanketed in white. This time, no one shoveled early. No one erased. And across Elena's front yard, the snow lay smooth and untouched, like a fresh canvas waiting for something to matter again. She stood at the window, coffee in hand, watching Maya wrestle her way into a puffy jacket 2 sizes too big. Mom, it's happening, Maya shouted, boots half on. Elena smiled and nodded. Go ahead. Before the words had even finished, Maya was gone, charging out the front door like a soldier in a candy-colored snowsuit. She dove into the yard with both arms wide, laughter echoing across the still street. Elena followed slowly, pulling on gloves. No clipboard, no confrontation. Just silence. Beautiful, clean silence. By the time she stepped outside, Maya had made 3 snow angels, each one perfectly imperfect, each one bigger than the last. One had crooked wings, Another had a missing foot. The third, one's head tilted like it was listening to something. They were stunning Dot and untouched. Across the street, a few blinds shifted. People were watching, but not in the old way, not with suspicion or judgment. With curiosity, with something closer to permission for the first time in years. People didn't fear what came next, they wondered. Elena turned to find Mr. Chang already out, brushing snow from his porch steps, thermos in hand. He nodded once. You won, he called out. Elena shook her head. No, we just stopped losing. A few minutes later, something incredible happened. A door opened to houses down. Then another. Children poured out into the snow, like someone had blown a silent whistle no one remembered hearing. Mittens flailing, scarves dragging, boots stomping, and then suddenly, snowballs. Snowmen. Angels. Everywhere. Laughter filled the street. Parents followed, shovels in hand, not to erase, but to build. Snow forts started to appear near mailboxes. A family unboxed sleds no one had seen since before Maya was born. And no one told them to stop. That's when Elena saw her, standing on her porch, arms crossed, coat buttoned to the neck. Karen Halbrook. For a long moment, she just watched. Not furious, not defeated. Just quiet. She looked smaller somehow. The kind of small that didn't come from age or distance, but from absence. Power stripped away. And all that remained was a woman without a clipboard. Without a crown. She locked eyes with Elena. Neither spoke. Then Karen turned and went inside. The door didn't slam. It simply closed. Maya ran back up the driveway, breathless, cheeks flushed red. Do you think she saw it? She asked, pointing to the biggest snow angel. Elena crouched down beside her. She saw it. Maya grinned. Good. That one's mine? You want to make another? Maya shook her head. No, that one's enough. And just like that, Elena realized something. This was never about revenge. It was about remembering. That joy doesn't need permission. That childhood doesn't belong on a checklist. That sometimes the loudest rebellion is a child pressing her arms into snow. Later that day, Devin dropped by with a folder. Inside, paperwork, official documents, ballots, requests for nominations. The process of building something new. We'll need a real election, he said sheepishly. By the book this time. Elena nodded. Good. That's how it should be. He looked around. At the angels dotting the street, his eyes softening. Feels different now. It is, Elena said. It's quieter, he added. She smiled. That's peace. By dusk, the snow slowed. Streetlights blinked on. Kids trudged home. Laughter echoed once more, then faded, carried away on the wind like smoke from a candle. The neighborhood was still again, but not the same. Never the same. A few angels remained in the snow. Some had already begun to melt. But Maya's, the biggest one, that one stayed. And this time, no one dared touch it. The morning after the snow, Woodpine looked like a neighborhood in a snow globe. Serene, peaceful, a moment frozen in time. But inside Elena's house, the silence was almost too loud. She sat at the kitchen table, the petition folder still open beside her. The election paperwork Devin had dropped off lay neatly stacked, ready to be mailed. The community hall was booked for next week's vote. It should have felt like victory. It should have felt like the end. But it did in single quotes. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. You think this changes anything? She's still watching. Elena's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She typed back. Who is this? No. Response. Her eyes flicked to the window. Across the street, the house with the perfect lawn stood quiet, a wreath still on the door despite it being March. And then the knock came. Soft, deliberate. She opened the door to find Karen Halbrook standing there. No pearls. No clipboard. Just a plain coat and tired eyes. "I came to talk," Karen said. Elena stepped aside. Karen entered, hesitating in the living room. "I'm not here to fight," she said quietly. Elena nodded. Karen looked down, fiddling with a small object she pulled from her coat pocket. "A crown," she said, holding it up. Elena raised an eyebrow. "Not the kind you wear," Karen explained, "but the kind you fold out of paper when you're a kid and want to feel like a queen. It's silly, but it's what I always kept when things got tough." Elena took the paper crown gently. "It's kind of beautiful," she said. Karen sighed. "I lost sight of what this neighborhood really needed. Control became a game. Rules became weapons. And I forgot about the people." She paused. "Thank you for reminding me." Elena was about to respond when Karen looked up sharply. "But don't think this is the end of me," she said, voice low, but steady. "I'm going to run in the election. Fair and square. No tricks." Elena blinked. Karen smiled, something small but genuine. "You'll see." Karen turned to leave, but stopped at the door. Double quotes. "Oh, one more thing." She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to Elena. Elena unfolded it. It was a legal document, a clause she had never seen before. Any HOA president may appoint a non-voting advisor with the power to audit all community proceedings and financials. Karen nodded. "I'm appointing myself that advisor. The community deserves transparency, but also experience. I'll be watching, not to control, but to advise." Elena's heart raced. This was unexpected, but maybe necessary. Karen smiled again, then stepped outside, closing the door quietly behind her. Elena sat back down. The paper crown rested on the table like a fragile promise. The neighborhood outside stirred. Kids laughed in the distance. Snow angels still lingered in the fading daylight. And the story was far from over. Elena's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "You won't regret this," she smiled. Maybe Karen was right. Maybe this was just the beginning of something new. But this time, the power wouldn't be in one clipboard or one voice. It would belong to everyone. And Elena, she was ready.